Good evening, I'm Chris Matthews. Stunning news out of the White House tonight. President Bush has briefed news people that he will call tonight for a permanent U.S. security pact with the government in Baghdad. Our protection of that government will henceforth be similar, he said, to the U.S. military presence along the DMZ in Korea. We will guard the weak new government in Iraq with the same degree of commitment as we do the government in Seoul. What a strange and bizarre development. For years, the Islamic world has feared that the West, led by the United States, has been out to invade and grab the land of Islam, that we have our eye on a permanent military presence in the Arab lands, that we are indeed the Crusaders once again set on aggression in the land of the Bible and of Muhammad. Has President Bush now handed the jihadists and the al-Qaeda recruiters the greatest possible recruitment poster by saying we're not only going to keep our presence in Iraq, but stay there the half-century we've already kept troops in Korea? Our second story tonight, how will President Bush sell this new commitment to a permanent military arrangement in Iraq? Let's go now to NBC's Washington Bureau Chief and moderator of Meet the Press, Tim Russert. Tim, what did you learn today about the President's long-term commitment to Iraq?
Well, Chris, that there's going to be one. He talked about how the leaders of Iraq had gotten together, and the one thing they agreed upon was to ask the United States to enter into a long-term strategic relationship. And he's going to talk about that tonight, that he wants to go forward with this long-term strategic relationship, the kind we have, as you mentioned, in Korea, with Pakistan, India, Israel. What form it will take is uncertain, but it certainly means that there will be a significant commitment of U.S. assets in that region for a long time.
This doesn't follow from earlier pronouncements going back to 2003 when we first went into Iraq about the insurgency being in its last throes, about the mission being accomplished, the military mission. How did he talk about it, if you can? How did the President explain how his thinking has developed, if it has?
Well, his thinking is as follows, that this is necessary to calm the nerves of the Arab states, who he believes are quite concerned about the Iran and some of their activities, and that the only way to meet the request of the Iraqi government that's in place now is to have this kind of relationship, strategic relationship. It's going to be quite striking and interesting for me to hear how the Democrats, particularly the Democratic candidates for president, are going to respond to this. Right. Some people who've spoken to the president will say, well, we're trying to get this resolved and stabilized for them. And yet, when you understand what the president is saying, after his initial drawdown by Christmas of some 5,000 troops and perhaps another 20,000 by July, at the end of 2008, by the best calculations, there will be anywhere from 90 to 110,000 troops still in Iraq. And if, in fact, there's going to be this long-term strategic relationship, that number will probably, it will necessarily have to go down, but it indicates that we are in Iraq for the long, long haul.
We have, of course, as you know so well, troops along the DMZ, along the 38th parallel in Korea. They are, in fact, a tripwire there to keep the North from doing anything across the border, coming through the tunnels. Do you think the President, well, let me ask you, did he give you any indication of how many troops he would use to support the commitment he has as he described to you today? No,
or whether they'd be based specifically in Iraq or in the region, no. Nothing other than this entering into the strategic relationship. But, Chris, to give you a sense of his mindset, when he is asked to talk about common ground, I want to find common ground with the Democrats in Congress, and ask what that means, the response is accepting the Petraeus report.
That's a common ground.
That's how he views this. Another point, for example, Senator Jim Webb, who's been on your program, who talks about limiting the amount of time Americans can be sent to Iraq for in terms of the duration of their assignment and their tours. And he's trying to get that into legislation and has attracted some Republican support. The president's thinking on that is, if that passes, I'll just call up more guards and reserves.
Wow.
That the primary focus is the mission, not the strain on the military. And he's still very much focused on this notion, we can win this thing. We can win this mission.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim Russert.